Hello everybody, I'm Just Like here. Welcome back. It has been quite a while since I have made a tutorial video. Today we are going to be looking at how to make a functioning AI. Now all this AI in this example will do is it will find the nearest player, it will constant it will get the sorry, it will get the quickest path to the player, and it will update that path every 0.15 seconds, so that say the player goes behind an obstacle, it will it'll say, hey, this player's behind something, but the path says to go through it, and it will update that path to go around it. Additionally, it will apply damage to the player. It will, if you want, it can also make a sound that can be heard on all clients. Once they kill the player, it will have a cooldown, and it can even spawn other AI. But for the sake of this video, I'll be removing that. Now, this comes from my SCP-AB map, in case you haven't seen it, which, check it out if you haven't. But without further ado, let me start explaining. If you just want the code, you can go to the description, and boom, you're done with this video. If you actually want to know how this works, I'd stick around. So what we're doing is first, we have, what this is this is not an actor. This is not an actor. This is a character blueprint. The reason it's not an actor is so that you can set a skeletal mesh and you can give it animations. In this case, I have the Plague Doctor with the Plague Doctor animations, seeing how he's doing an idle animation. Now, additionally, the reason I'm using this is because it has a capsule component, and it also has a arrow, and then it's just useful stuff for me, especially the arrow. It shows you which way it's facing. So, plus you could use the capsule component as a hitbox if you set the collisions correctly. Okay, so on begin play, what we were doing is we're going to do switch has authority, and the reason we're doing that is because we want it to run on the server. The reason we want to do that is because we go to class defaults and go all the way down to replication. Hold on, where did replication go? There we go. Because it'll replicate movement, it replicates, and it's always relevant. So if we move it on the client, it'll just move for them, and the server won't know, blah, blah, blah. We want to move it on the client, and make sure you have replicate movement, because if you do not have replicate movement, it'll just move on the server, but players won't see it moving. This is pretty handy because you don't have to do, custom event, you don't have to do replicates multicast, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do that. You just have to do replicates movement. Then what we're going to do is, you see these mandatory variables? It'll set its max walk speed, however fast you want, to the walk speed. Now, the reason we're doing this is not only for customizability, but because if we go into all content, then we go into gameplay, BP Pavlov pawn, and then we go all the way down to, I'll just search it, their max walk speed, the default Pavlov pawn moves at 300 centimeters a second. If I am remembering correctly, they run at about roughly twice that speed. So you usually want to set it, if it's like a runner entity, I'd recommend anywhere from 250 to 275, and anything slower should be pretty decent. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set a timer by event, and this timer, make sure it's looping, is every 0.15 seconds it'll update the path, and it'll also check, hey, who's the nearest player in case like there's a new nearest player, and then it'll also check, hey, are we close enough to kill them? So what we do there is, like I just said, and then event tick, we're going to switch has authority again, and then we're going to do AI move to. The reason we're doing AI move to instead of like, move actor to location or something like that. The reason we're not doing that is because then your animations wouldn't work. So we have to do AI move to, because what that does is, in a nutshell, it's, you know how you press W on your keyboard to move? It, in a nutshell, does that, but for the AI. And the way most animation blueprints are set up is, hey, Are they holding the W key to give them this speed? You get the point. So, and what we're doing is we're moving self pawn to the first waypoint index. Whatever waypoint index we're on, we're moving to that waypoint. Then after on success, if they move there correctly, we're going to increment the waypoint index so they can go to the next one. And don't worry about doing like, oh, delay, and then you loop it back here. No, you don't do that because it's on event tick. An event tick runs every frame, so you don't want to do that because then you'll just have it even more resource intensive, which event tick on its own is kind of resource intensive. This could be optimized better, but for the sake of an AI, it's good enough. Okay. So on update path, what we're going to do is we're going to find the nearest player. Let's go into this function. We have a local variable called temp distance. The reason we're setting this to 99999, you get the point, is because that's, you'll see later, but we have to set this to a temporary, like, very high distance. That way it's like, oh, the closest player is this far away. Because then we're going to do get players. We're going to, for each loop, we're going to get pawn. Then we're going to get their location. And what we're going to do is right here, this is making sure they are not at 0, 0, 0. Or whatever you set this vector to, if they're right there, the AI will not, it will skip them. So you can set that to where the player spawns, or you could even make this like a general radius. It doesn't have to be an exact vector. So then what we're going to do is, well, assuming the pawn is valid, which you can also replace this is valid with is dead, or hold on. Oh, you have to cast a Pavlov pawn, then get is dead. And then if you want it to target non-dead players, which you probably would, you can just do that. You can do a branch. Then what we're going to do is we are going to see if the location of the SCP and the distance to the pawn, if it's less than the temporary distance. See why we set that high now? If that's true, then and if it's and if the pawn is not equal to self, because sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, it can do that. It will try and attack itself. What you can do is if the distance is less than, we'll set the new temporary distance to the distance. That way, if there's a player farther away, it just skips them because they're not the closest. Then what we got to do is set the target player to the pawn. Then we'll return the temp distance just in case if we need that. Compile. All right. Then what we'll do is we'll check if the distance is roughly 100, which 100 distance isn't all that much. It's roughly what I set for my SCPs on my SCP map. It's pretty much how close you want to be. Like if you set this 800, they can now kill them within an 800 centimeter distance. But if you set to 100, only 150, you get the point. If that's true and they're inside that radius, and if the attack debounce is false, we set the attack debounce to true so that they don't like loop damage over and over and over and over and over every single frame. We don't want to do that, so we do a debounce. Then we're going to apply the damage to the target player, and I just do damage type underscore knife. That's what I do. Doesn't really matter as far as I'm aware. And it'll take the damage variable, and that's how much damage they'll do. If you set it any higher than I usually set it to 999, and you get the point. If you want to insta kill them. Then what it does is it calls this multicast event, which all this does is play a sound. Like if I go to these sounds over here, this is all it is. That's all that is. It just plays a sound. You may not need that, but I do. Then what it does is it delays for the attack cooldown, which in this case is 5 seconds. So after they attack once, they have to wait 5 seconds before setting the debounce to false, which means, hey, we can attack again. Okay? This transform was for if we spawn something after they die. Just don't worry about that. You can delete that. Then what we do is down here, if they are not within killing distance, we will find the path to location synchronous, whatever the fuck, I can't say that. The path start will be the actual location of our character. Then the end location will be target player's location. Pathfinding context, I don't really use. Filter class, I don't really use. And then what you're going to have to do is on the navigation, on the return value, you're going to get path points, and then you're going to set the path points value variable. And the reason we're setting waypoint index to 1 instead of 0 is because 0 would be the waypoint that the SCP is already at. So you have to set it to 1 so it goes to the next waypoint, not the one that it's already at. This down here, this won't be included in the blueprint snippet, but this is just say, hey, if they get inside, if the SCP is in this radius, open all the doors near it so that it can go through. You don't need that, so you can just delete that if I forget to remove it in the blueprint. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. Yes, actually, one more thing. What you want to do is you want to go to the place actors tab and you want to get a nav mesh bounds volume. And what you want to do is you want to place that in your level. That way that they can, if you press P, you see all, oh my god, that's massive. You see all these green spaces? These are places that the AIs can walk on. You need this. Otherwise, they'll just stand still. They'll just stand still. There's nothing they can do if they don't have a nav mesh. And like I said, you can press P to hide or remove that, to hide or show that. And you'll generally want a tiny little like sliver of green. Like they don't have to necessarily be exactly connected to go through doors in this example, but I'd recommend at least a tiny sliver of green connecting every hallway or whatever the hell you're trying to get them to pathfind through. See? And I think that's really all I need to go over. So, yeah. See you guys in the next video.